Hello and welcome to Season 2 of the Soccer Coaching Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Scott.
And I'm your other host, Mark.
In each episode, Mark and I will discuss the key topics that impact on football coaching in the foundation and youth development phases. We will share our thoughts, ideas and experiences, and whenever possible include guests so we can get their insights and opinions too. Thanks for listening and we hope you enjoy this episode. Hello Mark, how are we doing?
Yeah, very good, thank you. I hope you can hear me all right. It's not too echoey here.
We're on location.
Yes.
We've come to an empty gym. Our boys are in a bigger sports hall just next door playing some futsal, funnily enough.
Yes.
And we've sneaked off to do a bit of an intro and an end to a pre-recorded episode that we've done all on futsal with Luis Melville.
Yes. Yeah.
Which was good.
Very good.
Well, go on, Mark. Let's talk a bit about why we thought futsal was important and why we wanted to do the episode.
So, I think our experience of futsal has been, firstly, I've very much enjoyed it. We both went through the futsal level 1 course, which gave us our introduction. We didn't know a lot about futsal prior to that, right? We'd done some reading, but didn't know too much. So what we wanted to learn a bit more about it, and then we wanted to bring it to the benefit of the under-7s at the time, and now the under-8s.
Say bring it to the matches.
Bring it to the matches, yeah.
The
exactly,
masses.
Sorry, not matches,
Yeah.
masses. And we also wanted to bring it to the under-10s, which are now the under-11s, to see how, if they would enjoy it and have fun, and then secondly, can they take certain things from futsal, and I guess the benefits, and take it into football on a Saturday and Sunday. I guess that was the aim.
Yeah, super. We've done 20 odd episodes of the podcast. We've not really spoke about futsal as in what the game is.
Yeah.
And I think it's fair to say, even though we've batted around for a couple of years and had a little go at it, we're certainly not experts.
No.
And a one-day course doesn't make you anywhere close to an expert.
No, definitely not.
So we roped in the wonderful Luis Melville.
We did, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, to give us an education.
Yeah, we're blessed where we're based, I think, because we've got access to some great people. And,
Yeah,
and
definitely.
Louis is one of the list now, great people that has been kind enough to give us some time. So we got Louis in and he visited us and spent over an hour with us going through his background and futsal and what it's all about. So we're going to play the episode.
Yep.
And then have a chat about it afterwards.
Yeah.
Sound all right?
Perfect.
Yeah, all right, good stuff. Well, Louis, thank you so much for joining us. We're really, really grateful. I know how busy you are, and as always, getting a guest, especially to make the effort to come and see us, is really appreciated. We're going to talk futsal today, if that's okay. But before we really get into the futsal conversation, look at the game and things, as is typical in these kind of podcasts when we've got guests on, it'd be great to know your background, your coaching journey, what you've done previously, and what you're currently doing now, if that's all right.
Yeah, well, probably a good idea to work backwards, I guess. Right now, I'm working for a company called Go for Goal as their head coach, futsal, and that's primarily my focus, just on futsal. So I don't need to worry about football or anything else. And then outside of that, I've also got a role with the FA. As I've got several roles as a mentor and a tutor. Also involved in the under-19 England programme for futsal in the regional talent centres for the South. I'm an assistant coach there. And then sort of finally I've become part of a group of coaches that I think it's been termed the Advanced Coaches Group for the FA. So we're charged with looking at CPD for level 3 coaches and how a level 4 programme in futsal might look. So that's kind of where I am now. And to get to that, I've had 14 years at Brentford Football Club Community Sports Trust. I know you had Jamie Tompkins on here, former colleague, and that was a big part of my life, and futsal intertwined in that. But I was also heavily involved in football at the trust as well as head of the Football Development Centre, and it was called the Advanced Training Programme before. Trying to develop that, and hopefully left that in a good state for Jamie to take over.
Yeah.
And futsal was sort of really my first love from 2005. I sort of got the bug, got infected, as some of the coaches say, and I've been trying to infect other people ever since.
And did you play back then?
I came in quite late, so sort of early 40s. So I had a sort of that season dabbling in it, and realised that 3 lungs in the sport was an advantage, and only had 2. Yeah. But I really got dragged in by someone called Dermot Collins, who is still at the FA, and I'd actually played football with him, and he said to me, "We're looking for some help on futsal." And back then, I remember hazily seeing futsal and not really getting it, and And I said, look, I haven't got a clue. He says, well, look, just come along, have a look and see what you think. And I thought, okay. So went along. Yeah, this looks interesting, but didn't quite get all the laws of the game.
Yeah.
And he said, well, looking for people to help out. And I said, well, how can I help? He said, well, why don't you just come along and help run a league? So I thought, okay. So, and I knew a couple of the people from the teams who were sort of high-level footballers, but they were probably coming to the end of their football careers and wanted to play some futsal. And then that was going on. And then one evening, the coach for one of the teams who I knew didn't turn up, and someone sort of said, it was actually a guy called Steve Gallen, who's director of football at Charlton now, but he was at QPR, so it was one of those where I knew him, and he said, well, look, just come and help out on the bench.
Yeah.
And I thought, right, okay. So I went along, and it was interesting being really close up and seeing how fast the game was, and the amount of decisions the players were having to make, and the little time they had because of the 4-second restarts and some very different laws to football, the amount of substitutions that were happening in the game. And that he said to me, what do you think? And I was still, hands up in the end, no idea.
Taking it all in still.
Yeah, but it was interesting. And eventually their coach left, and he said, well, why don't you just get involved with this properly? And so by then I was starting to look at the game and try and find out a bit more about it. And I thought, yeah, there's definitely something to this game. And I had a few games for him as well. So it was like on the pitch and the movement of the players, it was like, they're here, now they're not here. How did that happen?
So fast. And
then I realised, I like this. So I started to get more involved and started to go and watch other teams and try and find stuff on the internet, which was sort of still fairly new back then. And it was hard, but fortunately, some of these players that I was coaching were also involved with the England team. So I got to meet someone called Graham Dell, who's now an FA Council member. But Graham back then was the England head coach of futsal, right. And the England programme was very much in its infancy. So a lot of the players were playing sort of semi-pro football or high-level amateur football. There were some ex-pros there who'd been at academies but wanted to play as well. I said, look, can I come along and watch a session? Expecting a blank no from the England head coach. And he said, sure, come up.
Brilliant.
And that was one of the things I've sort of really found with futsal is that the sort of futsal community is really open. There's no sort of secrets. They want to share because they want everyone to know about the game. And if we sort of try and close ourselves off, we're never going to. No one's ever going to know us.
Yeah.
So like I would say, Graham Dell was certainly one of the biggest influences, and he had a tough time because England weren't winning many games. I think it was 48, 49 games before we sort of got a win.
Right.
So trying to establish a program which. England's ranking then was very, very low, and the sort of apart from probably Brazil and Spain, the futsal landscape is very different. So there were countries there, Solomon Islands were making the World Cup. So it's like, well, people say, well, how have they done that and not us? But so I kind of was really interested in the program and what was going on around it, and then 2006. We went to the FA Futsal Cup finals. We'd managed to qualify. So now I've gone from very little to FA Futsal Cup finals.
Brilliant, yeah.
At the Institute of Sport in Sheffield.
In a year.
Yeah, and so that first year, that was a real eye-opener because there were really good futsal teams, and clearly there was a futsal community there, especially up in the north. And we our first year, we got to the plate final and lost. And then the following year, we got to the plate final and won it. And then in 2008, we got to the actual final of the FA Cup final. And we were playing a team from Ipswich, and they were all Portuguese players, and they could all play. It was a really close game. 6-4 we lost. To try and put it into some context, at that stage, the UEFA Champions League place, that was the qualifying route.
Wow.
So kind of we went into there knowing we were 40 minutes away from being in Europe.
Yeah.
So it's
a serious level.
Yeah, and by that stage we probably had 8 or 9 of the England squad in our team as well. So we had a pretty deep, and it was such a huge learning curve for me that what these players could do and what the game could give. By then I was in, I was hooked. Yeah. It was like this is for me, and how can I get it going? So and at that time I was trying to get stuff going at Brentford. So by 2009. We'd had some squads which were really talented from our football development centre, but they were sort of brought into futsal. And I was lucky, one of my colleagues guy called Ahmed had played a lot of futsal. He was an ex-pro, been at Crewe, played for Portugal to Morocco at under 23 level, and he really knew about the game, and he supported me on that. So we got these players. We were putting on sessions. So we're doing 2 football sessions and a futsal session.
As part of their program, weekly program.
So this squad then had they'd won an under 14 national title. So we'd gone up to the FA Youth Festival. So they'd won an under 14 national title. So clearly there were some good players there, and we carried on with them. And we went to France, which then was another level. And the first year, again, it was a real like, what are we doing here? What's going on? And we kind of went, right, learning curve, and we finished 15th out of 16 teams, and it was like, right, okay, so we filmed all the games, went back, right, now we know what we're dealing with. This is like proper futsal here for youth futsal players. And we came back the following year, same group of players, and there were pro clubs there, and we managed to reach the semi-finals, and we lost in a penalty shootout.
That's some achievement in 12 months from
so kind of we looked at that and thought, right, there again, the players looked totally different to the previous year. So again, it's like I'm thinking, right, there's definitely value in this for us, and from there on, it was just sort of pushing on with Brentford, and we managed to get a girls' program going, and then we got to a stage where the BTEC program came in, and it took us a couple of years to get that going because we're competing with football all the time. So loads of these, I'm sure you're aware of all the BTEC football programs.
Yeah, but there's a BTEC futsal one, is there? Yeah, okay.
So like that, we started that in 2000. We eventually got a group together 2014. That again, that was a real eye opener because now we were playing teams, other sort of professional community clubs, and what was going on there. Our second year with that group, we managed to get to the quarterfinals of nationals, and we had a brilliant game against Grimsby. Which we lost on penalties again, so penalties not good to me, but again we could see the value, and some of those players that then went through to the England Regional Talent Centre, and then we had another group where we were tied up with West London College. Again, that second year, that group did quite well. They managed to get to the knockout phase of a national competition with players who I have to say, we had to work incredibly hard with, but again it showed you like what would happen if you really applied yourself to the game.
Yeah. So
kind of then I and all through the background of that is my coach Ed. So it's I did before the level 1 that is now. There was a introduction to futsal, it was called, and then there was a beginner's guide.
Right.
And then the level 1 came along.
Yeah.
So kind of I did all of those, and I thought when the level 1 came, I could have just transferred over, but I didn't. I thought let's do it again. And then my level 2, and then I was fortunate enough to get invited onto the UEFA B, the pilot course. So that was an interesting journey because it wasn't like the football where you had blocks. We were having to go up once a month every Saturday to St George's Park. We had to put on regional events as well. So I worked out, I clocked up about 3,000 miles achieving that.
Yeah.
So saw a lot of motorway, but it was worth it. And the level of the coaches there, some of the coaches were really high level coaches who had 20 plus years in Spain. So it was a great environment to be in.
So is that the UEFA B futsal qualification? Yeah. Okay, and is that going now? Is that going?
Yeah.
strong?
So the next group are just about to start,
right.
And then there's hopefully in the next couple of years that will become a regional course because it's still a national course. There are sort of courses dotted around, so maybe the Football League Trust would run a course for their coaches because they've got a big cohort of coaches, and then there's stuff going in within the pro game. So someone like Ian Bateman, who's the current assistant head coach of England. He would deliver that as well.
Right.
So kind of some of my other influences, Pete Sturgess, who I'm sure you're aware of.
We've seen a couple of times, yeah.
So Pete sort of followed on from Graham, and again, absolutely brilliant for me. He was so supportive, and I'd have to call him a mentor as well because of what he's offered me. He invited me over to watch England play Ireland, and I was able to be with the team. And when you see it that close, you really do get to see what the detail is, and
what's involved,
and it is a different sport. It's a sport in its own right. And then once Pete steps aside, Mike Scubala, the current England head coach, he's been brilliant as well. The access we've had, and he was actually the person who gave me a phone call to ask me to come into the Regional Talent Centre for the England, I must admit, I was a bit in shock after that. I thought, was that a real phone
Is
call?
it a prank? Yeah,
I was
who's
just
winding
checking-
me up?
Yeah, I don't
What
know
mate's
this.
got this?
I don't know this number, but it was.
That's the kind of call you want, though, right?
Yeah, so that was a real sort of watershed moment as well for me to sort of realise, I still had loads to learn.
Yeah.
And I think I joked before we started that I'm out of my comfort zone in 2005, and I still feel I'm out of it.
Yeah.
And I think I'm at the stage now where I'm really comfortable with being uncomfortable with it, and every day's a learning day.
Well, that's a good point, because I think for us, I mean, Mark and I have done our one-day level 1 futsal course, and we both really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
But it certainly doesn't make you an expert by any stretch of the imagination. And we've adapted the game for our younger players and the older boys, actually, haven't we, inside? And we've done it for a year or so. But I think for us today is just about trying to learn a bit more about the game itself, from your experience of it, what the advantages are, and maybe some of the stuff in which grassroots coaches can take some of this back into their environment. That's the hope, really. So your expertise is way, way, way beyond us, and we will learn lots, if nothing else.
Yeah. I must ask you a question, though. You said, I think you've been at Brentford 13 or 14 years. Are you a Brentford fan?
Yeah, I'm converted. I've got a season ticket. My son is a season ticket holder. I guess I invested so much of my time on and off the pitch at Brentford that
brainwashed.
Yeah, I'm part of the Bees clan.
Oh, that's unfortunate to hear, I must say. Being a QPR fan, that's unfortunate.
Yeah, well, we're all friends around this.
Exactly, yeah. Although I will add, Brentford's a fantastic, well-run club. Amazing what they've done recently in terms of the players they've sold. The reinvestment is just phenomenal, and that's something that the model QPR used to have, and that they need to get back to and following. But fantastically well-run.
Is that hard to say? That
it is hard to say it.
You did good. You did good. You're very polite.
You got to be honest, right? It's very well.
I know that's never going to make the edit.
No, that's going to be
Exactly.
That is coming out.
Okay, so maybe we could just move on a little bit. You can tell us a little bit more about your current role, what that kind of entails, what you enjoy, what the challenges are. It'd be great to hear a bit more about Goal for Goal.
Yeah, well, my full-time job, I guess you'd call it, is with Go for Goal, and how that came about was one of the directors, Paul Jones, who's also the assistant head coach of the Welsh men's national futsal team. We sort of worked together at Brentford. He was working for Richmond Housing, who were a partner at the time, and Paul was a really talented futsal player. He played for Preston Futsal Club. He moved down here, and once I found out about his futsal, he got dragged into the programme, and he was helping out and coming down to train as well. And when we set up our National League team, which was initially called Vaughan's, and then we changed to Brentford, Paul was playing for that as well. So Paul had a couple of seasons playing National League. So we had always kept in contact. And the season before I moved to Brentford, I've moved from Brentford, he'd invited us in to play his team at Go for Goal, who they had some really high level players, and in 2017 Go for Goal won the 14s and 16s boys national titles, so they had some really high level players in there. So we'd always been talking, and he said, look, we're looking to restart our futsal program because they have a very successful football department and based around smart football. And I know we've spoken about this, Scott, and I don't want to steal Andy and Paul's thunder too much, but I guess it's a different methodology, and I'll let them deal with that. So, but for me, the sort of the Paul was the futsal, and said, look, we've sort of stopped futsal, but we want to get it going again. I said, well, what have you actually got? And they said nothing. So I thought, right, so clean sheet, it's a clean sheet. So we love a challenge.
Yeah.
And said, but look, we really want to give it a go. So we're not precious about having everything go running from day one. We know you're going to need time, and you're going to need to re-establish yourself. So I thought, right, okay, let's go for it. Spoke to my other half about that, because I have to say, I was pretty comfortable at Brentford in terms of job security, and I got a green light. So I thought, right, okay, so let's go for it. And it's been an interesting journey, smaller, obviously a smaller company, but the support I've had has been brilliant. One of the things we did straight away was to try and set up a development centre, and that took a bit of time, but we've now got development centres at Tolworth, which is our sort of head office area. And then also one of the lucky things for me was that Go for Goal had an existing contract with St Mary's University in Twickenham, so they had the football contract and also the futsal contract. So luckily I was walking into a great job there, where I was going to be head coach of the futsal team. So in a university that has magnificent facilities, and has got a good track record for sport.
Yeah.
We're now at that stage where we're starting up. So we had Freshers' Day recently, and we've got trials coming up, and our first we've got some friendlies against Chelsea Futsal Club, Reading Royals Futsal Club. So high level clubs that are going to be a real test for us. Again, take us out of the comfort zone.
Yeah.
I think one of the advantages we got with futsal is that because the knowledge base maybe of the players and the parents isn't as high, we're able to maybe have that opportunity to really tell people what the game is and what it looks like.
They're open to listening, I guess, aren't they? Rather than we will know it all already kind of thing.
Yeah, and I think there is that a little bit where parents are coming in with what they think is a good knowledge base, and some of them do have brilliant knowledge base, I have to say. But with futsal, I think it's different. They're out of their comfort zone a little bit. Well, what does it look like?
They're happy to listen and learn.
Yeah. So I think they're a bit more receptive to that.
How do you recruit for the development centres? Is it a selective thing?
No, I think we're at a stage where, because we're so new still, where we say all abilities welcome, boys and girls welcome. One of the things we are starting mid-October is a girls-only development centre. So that's something I'm really keen on, because part of the FA strategy is to set up an England women's team, senior team, and obviously there'll be pathways falling out of that. So, and also again, I think for girls coming in, it could be their first experience as well. Futsal, with the constraints of the game, that's a great way to introduce females, into, and also male players, but certainly female players into the sport to really engage them, because it is all then about what they can do with the ball.
And what's the hope of Go for Goal then? What's the vision or the dream for?
Well, world domination, obviously, but I think what we would just want to do is to really re-establish the programme so that we've got a really good base of players. I do think we are looking at the talented players that come in as well, because the pathways need to be there. And I'm sure if you've got talented players that you'll be looking at your club, you'll be looking to pathway them through, because I'm kind of one of those coaches where, if a pro club is taking our players, a lot of them, we must be doing something right. And as a recruitment tool for your club, well, look, a lot of our players do go on and have trials and stuff like that. So we must be doing something right if those clubs are interested in us. So I kind of think where we are with futsal nationally, the England team is sort of ranked 50th at the moment, and the aim is to be in the top 20 by 2024, which is a tall task given that we don't have a professional league, and most of the players are probably still sort of twin tracking. Although it's getting better. So I think what we want to do is play our part in establishing the game certainly in sort of the south, and having a really good solid pathway, so players who want to come in and have a go can have a go. And get better at it, and the players that want to be really serious about it, there's a pathway for them as well. So we'd certainly like to have performance squads. I'm really sort of careful about using the word academy, but certainly sort of performance squads. And I'm not sure I'm really comfortable with that as well at the moment, trying to find the word that covers it, because to me performance means you're in it every day, and
which isn't the case.
Which isn't the case. So it's a kind of,
we get the gist, we know what you mean. So you're trying to be part of the solution to trying to get an established futsal pathway in this country, and it needs you and people that Go for Goal out there doing that if it's going to work right, because it won't happen just naturally. It needs to be cultivated, I guess.
Because I think when you get to sort of 16, the pathways are with the sort of BTEC programs. AOC Sport is starting a national program for colleges, and then if you get to university, it's well established. There's a huge futsal community there, program. You can probably play futsal for 4 years. So by the time you come out at 21, 22, you've got a serious amount of futsal under your belt, and you could be looking at National League clubs or certainly more recreational leagues are there if you want to go and play. So it's that bridging that gap between 15, 16 and probably 8 or 9 that's what we've got to do.
Feel there. And I guess the good thing with futsal is, unlike football, is you probably got more of a really chance of being successful at it if you put the time and the effort in as a player and you learn the game early on. You can probably work up the rankings a bit quicker than you could maybe in the more competitive world of regular football. Would that be fair to say?
And I would say that goes the same for coaches,
right?
Referees. Administrators in the game. So I look at some of the players that are playing futsal for England now, and would any of those been able to do that in football? Well, if you try and work it out, if you're going to play in the Premier League, for example, what is it, 40% English qualified players?
I think it's 36, but yes.
Okay, so if we say in the Premier League there's roughly 200 English players, English qualified players, you've got to be one of the best 200 players in this country between the ages 18 and 35.
Yeah, I think the other thing on the pathway, especially around players maybe being signed by the clubs at certain ages, I think that also helps with the fact that gets recognition for your club, for Go for Goal. And I think maybe that generates more interest, right? Players see that happening, parents see that happening, they might then think, wow, this is the place to go where your son or daughter's going to get the development they need. It's probably a good environment, things like that, and that then gets more interest for your club as well, right? So it's a win-win almost.
Yeah, we're very fortunate, and as I mentioned before, 2017 Go for Goal under Andy and Paul won 2 national titles, and then this year our under 16s won the national title again. And out of that, 5 of the players went forward to the England under 19 trials. Right, so some of them are still involved in that programme, and that's a group that's going to be preparing for the 2021 UEFA Championships, which are going on this week. I think the levels are going up in this country of futsal players, what we're seeing. But again, we can demonstrate that pathway is there for players. There's here's an example. These sort of 4 or 5 players have done this, got this far, and also we can illustrate with players that are currently have actually gone back into the pro game. Yeah. So the current England under 19 squad that's just finished, there's 4 or 5 of those are now at pro clubs.
Right. So it's supported their way back into regular football, if you like. Yeah.
And one that your listeners may be aware of is a player called Max Kilman, who's at Wolverhampton Wanderers.
Yeah, there's an article in the paper, wasn't
there? Yeah, so his is most futsal people will know this story, but kind of what happened with Max was he was in football academy and got released at, I think it was 12. Probably fell out of love with football, got involved with futsal, and then started to really progress and got involved in the England programme. Then started playing non-league football again. I think he was playing conference level. Racked up 20-25 caps for England. Probably one of the first names on the team sheet. Got spotted, got invited into Wolves. I think he was under 23s, signed, first team contract. Then last season made his Premier League debut, and he's played in the Europa League this season as well for Wolves.
Great,
good story, like for us, sort of saying, well, there you go. There's a great success story for someone who was out of football really and came back in, and he openly says, futsal was without futsal, I probably wouldn't be where I was. Yeah. It's a difficult one because obviously I've got my futsal hat on and I want futsal
players. Stay at futsal, don't you?
But I realise that part of my role as well is that where's our biggest pool of players? It's in football, so I have to be a bit of a salesman as well, so that this is what it can offer you. And twin tracking sort of football and futsal is probably going to be the way for us.
It's got to be a collaboration, hasn't it? If you start competing, it's not going to work because it's about working together, and ultimately I guess it's making sure that players know their options and doing the right thing. So someone like Max can find his way back into football that way, the same way someone might find their way out of football but stay into futsal. It's just another option, isn't it?
Well, even in countries like Spain, I mean, I was lucky enough as part of my sort of personal coach education, I managed to get myself out to FC Barcelona futsal and spent a week there. And I met with a coach who's a close associate of Paul and Andy's, quite a big, well-known coach in Spain called Santi Hea, and we had an hour together. And he said to me about futsal in Spain. He said, "Look, over here football's our big competition, and also basketball because it's professional out there and on television." He said handball, it's professional. He said we have even sports like rugby now, which is big. Barcelona have a rugby team. It's not professional, but he said so. All these sports we're competing with, and then he came up with this saying. He said, futsal, we have to be football's best friend, and that's in a country with a big futsal heritage. So it's like if that's their approach, then kind of it's what are we going to do here in England
without that foundation?
Yeah, and kind of every opportunity I see to get a footballer in, they need to have a really positive experience in that hall. Because I'm only going to get one chance to make this impression. Yeah. So I want them to sort of see what the game is, and so that they come back, they go walking out, say, "I've got to have more of this," and the parent as well saying, "Wow, that's amazing. Where do we sign him up or sign her up?"
Yeah, exactly. And I think the thing is, like, you think kids at a young age, the first thing they do when they're at school is usually play football, right? They don't play futsal. It's football they're playing, so they kind of fall in love with football. And then I think you're absolutely right. What you say, if you can kind of piggyback on or have that connection with football, then you're gonna get more people kind of involved in things.
It might be good, Louis, if you don't mind. It might seem a bit simple, but just to kind of explain what futsal is. I mean, just in a couple of minutes, maybe. Just what's the game? What's different to normal football? Just for those. I mean, even Mark and I, we've done our level 1. We've seen the game. We've done it, but I don't think we know the rules properly. Not inside out. The fly keeper rule, for example, is quite complicated sometimes. Just give us maybe a 2-minute kind of overview of what is futsal and what's involved. If that's possible.
Yeah, sure. So. It's quite interesting because the referees they call it, when they talk about laws of the game, they talk about big football and little football.
Right. Okay.
So they sort of say futsal's little football. So basically, it's 5-a-side football, but I would say it's not 5-a-side football as you'd know down at goals or power leagues, where the rules differ. Some will be overhead height, can't go in the penalty area, come out of the penalty area. Some places it's prison rules, so it's
anything goes.
Yeah, those boards are pretty decent to put someone into. Whereas we play to a court, so like football, we've got a pitch, so we have a court, and generally it will be a 40 by 20 if you're lucky. But with sports facilities here, most Sport England facilities you're probably going to have a 30 by 18 court, probably a netball court to play on. Our goals are slightly different, so we have hockey or handball size goals. Our pitch looks slightly different with the penalty areas, and the ball is totally different. It's a lot of people say it's heavier, but it's actually a lower bounce ball. The weights are very similar, so it bounces about 30% of a normal football. It
doesn't feel heavy when you compare it to the ball. It just feels more solid in some ways.
It's just the way it's weighted. So to ensure the ball doesn't, so if you throw a normal football, it's bouncing 50 times before it stops. And so most of the constraints are what defines the game. So all our restarts are 4 seconds. So immediately, the time wasting element goes out of it because you'll concede possession wherever you are on the court. As I said, it's 5v5. There are unlimited substitutions. So there's a certain area where players have to come off first before the players come on. And you can do 1 sub at a time, 2 subs at a time, 3 subs at a time, 4. So it's great for that. And you don't have to stop the game as well. So it's not boards going up. It's done.
It keeps going.
And in a high level game, you'll have a third official there just watching to make sure it's done properly. So you'll probably get a few warnings, and then if there's a real transgression, yellow cards start coming out. But that's at the high level.
Yeah.
So there's a lot going on the side as well. So for the coach, there's a lot of challenges there, but perhaps we'll come to that a little bit later. Again, one of the other constraints is the foul rule. So each half and I'll phrase this carefully, allowed to commit up to 5 fouls.
It doesn't sound right, does it?
No, and after every foul after that, direct free kick offence is a 10-metre penalty, where it's a shot at goal. You can't pass or any clever routines. You have to shoot a goal.
Yeah.
So that has an interesting effect on the game. So if you might have teams who are really aggressive come out, 3 or 4 fouls very quickly, then they have to start thinking about how we're going to defend. Are we a little bit aggressive?
Yeah.
And of course, the other team are looking to get players on to draw fouls.
Yeah.
And let's get our tricky players on, go and dribble at them, go and draw fouls. So that's the restarts are very similar. So we have corners. We don't have throw-ins. We have kick-ins. The players have to be back 5 metres.
The defending team back 5 metres, and you can pass on from a restart within 4 seconds.
And it can go overhead height if you want. The corners again, 4 seconds, 5 metres back. Free kicks, 4 seconds from the restart, and again the walls have to be 5 metres back. So there's a lot of similarity. The big difference is with the goalkeeper. There's no goal kicks in futsal, so it's called a goal clearance. So the goalkeepers can release the ball from their hand. They can either roll it or throw it. And it can go overhead height again. But again, they've only got 4 seconds to release the ball.
Can they drop it and play themselves and dribble it out?
No, not from a goal clearance.
Kick. Yeah, okay. And it's come back to them from a save or something.
So if it's an open play, so if I make a save, and it happened actually in the European Championships, the goalkeeper scored, put the ball down, he can dribble out or she can dribble out. Yeah. But they've got to get over, if they're coming out all the way with it, they've got to get over the halfway line after 4 seconds.
Right.
Because they've only got 4 seconds with the possession in their own half.
So even once they've dropped it with their feet, that's still their possession. That still counts as 4 seconds.
So it's 4 seconds from once they have possession.
That makes sense.
So if I catch it, the referee will start counting.
Yeah.
So then I can put the ball in play as long as I'm over the halfway line after 4 seconds, or release it after 4 seconds. Then I'm fine.
I get you.
So it was quite. One of the goals was they actually timed it.
I saw the clip on
Yeah,
Twitter.
it was more, but it was more than 4 seconds.
Oh, was it?
Yeah. So I kind of joke, well, perhaps the referee's a slow counter.
Yeah.
So, but you do get that in
before he got to the other person's half. It was
they reckon it was over 4 seconds.
4.1.
Yeah, it was. I think it was 4.5 seconds.
Oh right.
So it's difficult.
Was a good goal.
It did seem a bit long, but it was a brilliant. It was a panna finish as well. So
can't take those away.
No. So it was. So the goalkeepers are interesting because. Also, with the goalkeeping, if I play to you, Scott, for example, you can't pass back to me.
Yeah.
So
we can come on to that. That's okay.
Yeah. That's a fascinating rule, and something where in football, I think if you want your players to be comfortable, that's something to look at.
Yeah. Good point. One question on those kind of rules. Then, would you apply all those rules to under 7s as you would to under 14s or under 16s, or would you adapt those rules according to the age?
I would try and play the rules.
Okay.
Or I should say laws of the game, because I'm actually a qualified ref, so I should say I'm going to get told off for that. I would say trust the players.
Yeah.
We kind of maybe underestimate them, and I had this conversation yesterday. The kids you're coaching probably played FIFA, probably played Fortnite. Who taught them?
They didn't read the manual.
There was no manual. They went so I think it's just a matter of you'd be amazed at how quickly, like the goalkeeping rule is that we think it's too complicated for them, but actually they can work that out.
Yeah.
And if you start giving a few free kicks for it, because also the benefit is that then they've got a chance to set up a free kick if it's not done properly. So there's a great outcome for that. Can they organise a free kick?
Yeah.
So they'll soon get it, and it's amazing with my under 7s and 8s, they get it.
They get it straight away.
Yeah, they'll pick it up, and actually, it's not a bad thing if it does happen.
Yeah,
because
it's all
okay, well, why have I given that? Oh, yeah, I shouldn't have passed back.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Right, so I've got a challenge for you then. Okay, my position's changed slightly given what happened. I think the week before when we did a session with the younger ones, a futsal session, I changed the rules slightly. But with the goalkeeper situation, now obviously we coach a grassroots football team, under 11s and under 8s this season. We play indoor football, and we do call it futsal. We use futsal goals. We use a reduced bounce ball, and we play. We kind of do a bit of mashups. We do the 4-second rule. We do as many futsal rules as we can. Actually, I think pretty much. The one we don't do or haven't done is the goalkeeper rule. So we let our goalkeepers be involved still. And the rationale for that was the fact that actually on our Sunday league matches, we encourage the keepers to be involved. We actually call them outfield players with gloves on. So we almost create an extra player on the pitch by getting them involved, especially when our team's got the ball. And it's quite effective. And these, especially the younger ones, they've done it from the beginning. So they've adapted to it really well. Obviously, it can be a bit risky because that's part of doing it. But, who cares? It's 5-a-side under 8s football. So we're not worried about the result. We just want the players involved and playing. Obviously, with futsal, you can't do that very easily. The keeper tends to be a bit more of a shot stopper and, just being a goalkeeper, or at least that's kind of how we do it when we put that rule in place. So we hadn't fully embraced the futsal rule for goalkeeping. Do you think we were wrong for doing that, or do you think there's a rationale for maybe taking that approach? And please be honest.
Well, first I wouldn't say you're wrong. We'll use the goalkeepers. I'll use them as target players. I'm coming at it from a futsal perspective. So if I was saying for most futsal goalkeepers, the players in front of them. So I got challenged about this. Were using the goalkeepers in practice where they were in the middle of it. So from where is a futsal goalkeeper playing? He's playing with the play, or she's playing with the play in front of them most of the time.
Yeah.
So if you're thinking about designing your practice, where's your goalkeeper need to be? But I still think they need to be involved in that practice. So like our warm-up games where we might have possession games, they'll be involved in that because it's important that they're able to play with their feet.
Yeah.
So I would definitely have practices where they can be involved in that. So, but within the game, I think it's different constraints. And the goalkeeper if the ball goes out of play from a kick in, you can play to the goalkeeper and then they can distribute.
So they can still be used, can't they?
Yeah. I would say give it a go and see what it looks like.
Well, it's funny because we had our first futsal league games, if you like, with the younger ones. the session before, I wanted the boys to be familiar with the rules a little bit, and obviously they hadn't played that rule, so we said, well, let's give it a go. And I thought they would hate it, and I thought they would really struggle with it. The idea of, because the keepers, like, they don't mind going in goal, because they, we don't have a goalkeeper. We rotate all the boys around. So when I say goalkeeper, it's not one person. It's it could be anyone. It could have the gloves on. But I thought they would hate it. And I was corrected by the boys. They loved it. They loved the challenge. One of the boys even said, I said, well, how do you feel? So we said, like, now you can't pass back to the keeper, unless the other players touch the ball or it's gone past the halfway. And we kind of tried to do the rules that we thought were the futsal rules. And they loved it. And they were really good at it. And it did make the players on the ball have to stay on the ball and have, make different choices. And it was more challenging for them. It was a tougher test. But even when the players said, I asked them, and I said, what do you think? And they were like, no, we love this, Scott. It's excellent, really enjoying it. So I was proved wrong by a bunch of 7-year-olds that I underestimated actually how much they would enjoy that challenge. My coaching head still says I've got to be able to try and juggle both the kind of Sunday league games, if you like, compared to the futsal league games. But 2 different challenges for the boys is not a problem, and they've shown me that they can deal with it.
But again, maybe it comes back to what you said earlier about not underestimating the boys, right, or the players, because they picked that up, and we took them to the Wycombe Futsal League. They play in the Futsal League on a Saturday. And they just picked it up really. They
played a year up, and
they played a year up, and they were just superb, and they understood the rules. Not once, I think, did they play pass back.
No, once or twice you see them thinking about it, and then they kind of, you literally see their brains processing it, and then not doing it, didn't you? Yeah, so I kind of answered the question to your thinking. I think I've seen the answer anyway, but I do think that's one of the challenges for coaches, especially at grassroots, because they want to get the most out of the pressure, if you want, in inverted commas, is trying to balance that development and success, isn't it? But getting the players improving, but also competing well on your Sunday league games, because that still means something, rightly or wrongly, it does. And I think if you're going to embrace futsal, you need to find ways in which that works for both. I'd
say if the case you're talking about there, if you are using the futsal goalkeeper rule, then for the goalkeeper, if I know I can't get that back and I'm playing to my teammate, what's the quality of my distribution got to be like?
Yeah.
The decision making now is because if he knows he can just play it back to me, if I play a sloppy pass,
doesn't matter so much.
Whereas I'm playing to him,
got to pick the right foot.
And if my other team, exactly. Am I playing safe side? Is he left-footed, right-footed?
Yeah.
So all those sort of decisions, you can, that's giving you loads to coach or loads of questions to ask.
That's a good point, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Look, what we saw actually, and again, look, I've got no issues with more direct passes. I'm not saying punting down the field. We don't do that. We try and play the ball on the floor and roll it out. But if the better pass is to the next player up the line rather than the nearest player to the goalkeeper, then go for that player if they've got the space. But what was interesting in the futsal thing was, particularly one of the boys was in goal for one of the games, went a lot more longer passes, but throwing out, but not just up there to his players, but realised that the boys that were showing for it shorter under pressure and went to the next line, if you like, didn't they? Which we've never actually done on Sunday football. So it was interesting how they themselves would adapt to that and were doing exactly what you said then. I hadn't really thought about it until you said they got to pick the better option, or at least make sure their pass is a better pass, because they can't help and support.
I mean, for me, I've always said it is that the goalkeeper is in futsal is probably the most important player, because that they will be involved a lot. They're almost like a quarterback. So, like game I watched yesterday, there was something like 70 shots in the game.
Yeah.
So the goalkeepers, are distributing the ball a lot. They maybe distributing the ball 30, 40 times. So how many times does that happen in football? And they're heavily involved in the game.
How long is the game? Is it 40 minutes?
It's 40 minutes. A proper game is 40 minutes real time. So the ball goes out of play. The clock stops.
Yeah.
And there's time out in each half. Right. So 1 minute time out. So obviously the clock stops, but you can't roll your time out over into the second half.
And it's halves, not quarters. It's 20-minute halves.
It's halves, yeah. So it's a challenge, because in a real time game, you say, well, I'll leave my players out there for 4 minutes, but actually they're probably going to be on court for 7 or 8 minutes, and the concentration levels have to be phenomenal.
Because the speed the game is.
Yeah. So our university level, our players probably don't do more than 3.5, 4 minutes on the court.
And you roll them,
and like we'll change them in lines of 4.
Right.
So it'll be 4 on, 4 off.
Oh, will you? Yeah.
So
okay. So you got the fresh legs out, and they can recharge. And
the challenge for a coach in those games is, and not that I want to belittle any football coaches at all here. Please,
we can take it.
but kind of in your sort of game management on a Sunday, how many subs have you got?
We have two.
Yeah.
Okay, so you kind of probably
Does
got
roll,
an idea.
but
Yeah. So you're running and rolling off, and as you get older, probably you're playing 11 aside. You've probably got 3 or 4, 5 subs, and you're probably not going to make subs every 4 or 5 minutes. You're probably going to maybe everyone every 20 minutes or so. So kind of you've got a long time to look at the game, and in pro football, most subs aren't probably made until 65, 70 minutes. So you're going to sit there and contemplate, and you got one chance at half time to maybe tweak a few things. Because of the resources that we've got on the bench, so if I've got a full bench, I've probably got 12, 13 players on the bench. They're on there for 3 or 4 minutes. I'm thinking about the next change. What's the state of the game? The clock, foul count.
Yeah.
So do I really want to be shouting out instructions to my players? No, I want them to manage the game because I'm thinking about the next change. Where are we in the game? Am I going to take my time out?
Yeah.
Is that coach going to take a time out?
So from a coaching point of view, it's a very different game to coach and manage it in.
I mean, potentially, I could be making anywhere between 30 to 50 substitutions in a game.
Yeah.
So
you'd have a squad of maybe 15, 16?
Well, a match day squad is 14.
14.
So we'll try and manage that between 10 and 14. Depends if we're at home or away, because it's sometimes difficult with the students if they got stuff on.
Yeah.
But we'll try and manage the squads. At junior level, depending what the competition is, I'll look at that. So maybe a county FA qualifier, I'd go with 9 players.
Yeah.
So that we'd play them in 4s.
Yep.
And I'd be looking at the composition of the 4s.
Yeah.
So where are we? What's the state of the game? Is a couple of minutes left? We're 2-0 up. Might we want a really strong defensive 4 on there?
Yeah.
Or the game we're losing, we might need to take a few risks. So let's get all our dribblers out there and really creative players. Yeah. Or do I need a mix of it? You know, where are we on the foul count?
Sounds exciting, doesn't it, when you play at that level, especially with the speed of the game as well.
But I think even at sort of junior level, because it's really hard for them to play flat out for the period of time, even 10 minutes. You know, you want
hard
them,
work.
Yeah,
Indoors.
you want them playing.
Yeah, we've seen.
But, you know, they need to be at that level. We always joke that the only place you rest is on the bench.
Yeah,
you know, if you're out there, you work. And it's getting players to be honest as well, because one of the experience I've had early on is when you've got a new group and you're taking them off and you think, well, I'm not playing badly. I'm not taking you off because you're playing badly.
Just recharge back on in.
You've got 2 minutes to get yourself ready to go again. And after a while, players get honest. They think,
I need a little break. Yeah.
Get me off. You know, and actually, there's times where I've wanted players to stay on another 30 seconds.
But they're done.
If they're done, they're done, and they're coming off. And you've got to respect that.
Well, in futsal 30 seconds could probably be a goal or two, couldn't it? I guess you can go that fast.
I guess the challenge is when it's 5 aside. If you've got one player that's maybe just underperforming, then that's a big difference, right? That's kind of 20% of your team
Massive,
that are underperforming, and the opposition can take advantage of that quite easily.
Yeah.
And the other thing is for junior football or youth football, I'm assuming the games are not 40 minutes. Then they're shorter games, are they?
Yeah, there are shorter games, although there are some leagues starting up. So Middlesex Junior League is starting this very shortly. They'll be playing 2 25-minute periods.
That's under 16s.
That's under 16s. Yeah. Okay, so they'll have timeouts in the 5 fouls, but it's a running clock.
Right.
So
longer, but it's not going to stop.
Yeah, so
it probably works out maybe less actually.
Yeah, it can't. Normally, I would say if you played a 20-minute half real time, it will take you somewhere about 30 to 35 minutes to actually play.
Right. So it's probably a bit less than what you're doing in a normal.
Yeah. So it'll be pretty close, and at under 16 level, and I doubt they'll have like 14 players on the bench. They'll probably have 9 or 10. So they'll be working extremely hard. The county tournaments are difficult because the games are 15, 16 minutes, and so games get going, and then kind of it's full time.
Yeah.
And they start to develop, and they're looking like really interesting contests, and just as they get going. So they're really hard to manage, because sometimes you can come up against what I would say would be sort of very sort of non-futsal teams, very unconventional, and they can cause you a few problems. So it's like getting players to buy into, well, you know, that's just one of those things, and
you've got to deal with that.
You've got to deal with it. But it's interesting though about the timing of the games and what effect that can have.
There's so much more going on tactically with it that you kind of you don't really appreciate.
And perhaps that was one of the other things I wanted to really make, is the difference between what I call 5 aside and futsal it is an immensely tactical game, because I would say, like in your normal five-a-side, down at goals, you've probably got the big lump at the back who's just going to hit everything.
Yeah.
Your two whippy wingers, and then your finisher at the front, and the goalkeeper who's just like,
blocking everything.
He turned up late. So he's
Put the
in
gloves
goal.
on.
Whereas here, the players have to be able to play all the positions, and they have to be good 1v1, defensively and in attack. So the whole, if you like, mindset of the futsal player is different to a normal five-a-side player.
So Louis, another thing I was thinking then was just, obviously, like you mentioned, five-a-side, you have your positions, and in futsal it seems a lot more fluid. Do you have formations in futsal? Do you set the players up in a formation? Would they have specific positions they would play, or is it fluid that they literally play everywhere?
I would say they're nominal positions. The players have to be able to play, I would say, in a lot of different positions and be adaptable and flexible. But there are specialist positions. So we would say that our sort of central defender, we'd call him the back man. Then the wing, the two you'll have two wings, and then our sort of striker, we'd call him a pivot. In terms of pivots, there are specialist pivots. So a player who plays for Barcelona's futsal club is a pivot called Ferral, and he's really special at his core strength's amazing. He's able to hold players off, turn, shoot off both feet. So really difficult to play. I mean, I was fortunate enough to see him play live. I went out on a coach-head trip to Barcelona. It's just amazing how quickly he can deal with the ball, and the power of the shot is incredible. And then you've got obviously players who can play out in the wing, go 1v1, get past players, and then the fixed position or backman position. That's really about players being really defensively solid. But that's the battle again. So you'd have your best defender sitting in there as a fix, but
if the game's changed and you need to chase a goal or two.
So an example I can give you is that one of my players from St Mary's last year, who was also at Brentford with me, he plays centre back at semi-pro standard, but he was one of our highest goal scorers, because what we want him to do is play the pass and drive forward and get into an attacking position. So players have to be able to play in a lot of different positions. So that, from, we spoke about how can it help footballers. Well, I think they're more adaptable, and it's always, I can always tell defenders in football come into futsal because they get to the halfway line and they stop. It's like there's a force field there. And I sort of start. Do you play centre back, or you full back, or do you get forward, or you're a defensive player? And you can sort of tell. So it's really asking them to be brave and go forward, because if we don't get that rotation, we're not going to get anywhere. So players need to be able to play in different positions. In terms of formations, there are formations. So there's various formations: 3-1, 2-2. This is attacking formations. There's a formation called 4-0. Now, probably not a good idea to go in too much depth here, but it's a very popular formation in Spain, where you're playing with two lines. So you have the two more deeper players will play quite close together, and then the two further players are slightly wider, and there's like a butterfly effect in terms of the way you make your runs, but that will change. So it'll then sort of morph into a 3-1. What you need to be able to really good at that is your players need to be technically really sound, because if you lose the ball there, you've only got two lines of defence, and then there's a big space possibly behind you to the goalkeeper. So if your players are poor passers, the passing,
you're going to be
levels,
exposed.
You're going to get. So technically, and their pass execution has to be of a really, really high level, and the movement expectations of the players, because you're trying to create all these little spaces and displace defenders, and then it tends to morph into a 3-1 where one player will go quite high, and then we're looking to support as quickly as possible. So it kind of it's a really challenging formation in terms of getting players to think about their runs and how they execute. I think it is quite an easy way to coach. There is an easy way to coach here, because you're effectively coaching movements and patterns of run.
Play,
But it's understandable. You see a lot of running in futsal, and it's why are we running? Why are we running into that space? Why are we making that pass and not that pass? So it's getting them to understand the runs, because there can be a lot of movement, but if it's pointless, you're not going to get
wasting energy. You're not going to get anywhere. What would be the most common formations, would you say then?
I would say in England you see a lot of 3-1. That's what I play. Previously, the university played 2-2, which is not my preferred start. And with the players that we had at the university, we had a couple of decent pivots, so I wanted to play with a pivot. And so we play 3-1, and we've got good players, so they've got good movement, so we're able to, that works for me. Although I'm not saying that I would discount any of the other systems, because if I needed to use that.
And I guess it's the players you've got as well, right? That makes that
exactly.
Sense, it? And you mentioned patterns of play then, and I watched a fair few clips of futsal games and goals and movement and stuff, and it's quite impressive. How much of that would you say is like rehearsed patterns of play? Because it almost looks like the players know what they're going to do before they even do it. Like, you know, the ball move and one will step over and run into the space, and the left-sided player might pass into the pivot, who then passes it out to the right-sided player. Almost seems like it's almost like a choreographed move. Is that what happens? Is that part of futsal coaching, or is it more they've just learned that from playing together?
The set plays and restarts, a lot of them will be rehearsed. There's almost like a playbook,
right?
You know, clubs
a bit like American football.
Playbook. So I know, for example, in our under-16s final for Go for Goal, fortunately I know the club, and I knew their set plays were the same so when they shouted out the words, we knew what was coming. So that was an advantage to us, because I knew their set plays. But this year for the university, for example, we're looking at setting up some new set plays. So that's something we'll look at, and I'll give that to the players to do. That's something they can own, because they're creative.
Yeah, that's fun, right?
They've got to execute them.
Yep.
So obviously I'll have a look at them, and let's look at them and what the variations, because you'll need a couple of variations. But those sort of things, and the movement patterns in open play, there are things that we will practice where the runs are, because and where players want to make those runs as well, because something that's going to define that is how many right footers and left footers we've got. So we tend to set up the left footers on the right hand side of the court, and vice. So they're
moving into the pitch,
and the ball's on the safe side as well, so they can drive out.
Makes
so
sense.
so their left foot, they're coming out, the defenders on their right hand side, so they can drive out. Or if they're really pinned into that right hand side corner, they've got a diagonal pass on their strong foot that's not going to get blocked. So those are the sort of
things,
coaches'
the
challenges,
nuances that you get,
and in the pressure of the game, for players to realise, well, am I on the right side of the court? Do I, am I where I need to be for this restart? So that's really important for the players.
You may have mentioned this actually, or you certainly have, but let's put a spotlight on it for a second. In your perspective of things, what do you think the benefits of playing futsal are for players and for coaches, really? Well,
I think the constraints of the game, with the 4 seconds, the space, there's massive returns there. That, as I said previously, with the goalkeeper rule, where the players have to be responsible for the ball. So once that goalkeeper's released, it is down to you, and also the decision making of the players off the ball to support that player as well. So they're massive, and players. One of the things we ask our players to do is to win the ball back, rather than. I know there's this great go and smash a tackle, everyone great tackle and stuff like that. But if you kick the ball out, you've given away possession. So within our practices, so there's a level 1 game, which I know you've done, is keep it on the court.
Yeah,
so,
very good. Yeah,
yeah. So I'll do that with even our senior players, because I want them to win the ball back, so we can create why are we defending? We're defending to win the ball back,
to attack. Yeah,
exactly. Let's go and do the fun stuff.
Yeah.
So can you go and win it back? So I don't want them kicking the ball off. So I want them to value the ball. So every opportunity to win that ball is an opportunity to start an attack.
Yeah.
So being able to value, and if they can do that in a football game, even better. If that's all transferable, then I think from that, and the space constraints. Pete Sturgess said it to me once in an interview that I did with him. He said, if you've got a player, a footballer who you think's got something, put them on a futsal court.
That you already see.
And then you'll really see what they've got, and their decision. I think decision making as well is key, because I think perception of what you're seeing out there on the court is really important, and how you're using all that information and how you execute. Your execution is the decision.
Yeah, and the pictures change so quick, don't they?
Yeah.
So you're constantly having to scan and look and feel the pressure and play under pressure.
Because I think the other thing is, Scott, is that in futsal, generally your third touch is going to be pressure. You're going to get a challenge.
Don't get that much more time.
Yeah, you're not going to take 7 or 8 touches where you're going to get loads and loads of time. It's just not going to happen. It's just there's pressure all the time, and I sum it up as futsal's a battle for space. If I've got the ball, I'm trying to make it as much as possible. Yeah. You're trying to deny me the space. You're suffocating that space as much as you can, And that's the battle. It's a battle for space, and
Yeah.
who can win that battle probably is going to have the upper hand in a game.
And then that is the same as regular football for us. What I would say is it kind of almost amplifies up on a futsal court because of the size of the pitch, because of the conditions that are set to it, because of the way the ball bounces, and or limited, it's reduced bounce. You just see the whole thing amplified up. So if you train in that environment, when you go then out onto the grass and play 5 or 7 aside, it actually feels a bit easier because you've got a little bit more time than you would have had otherwise, and the pitches kind of stay a bit more steadier. So I think having done it with the groups that we coach, we've seen the transference out onto the grass, 110%. Decision making, not just technically the players' ability on the ball, which has improved 100% as well, but their decision making, their awareness, their playing at speed. And I hadn't noticed it, but you're right, their ability to win the ball back cleverly in a way that keeps possession as well, which I hadn't really thought about, but they do. They don't win it to kind of, their objective is not just to get the ball away from the opposition, it's to get it and keep it for themselves. And that has certainly come out from playing futsal. I can see that.
And I think, you spoke about how can we tweak the game. So if we'll do games where if you win the ball back and you score from it, rather than knock it off them and get a kick in, if you can win the ball back in open play and score,
probably
double the goals.
Double points. Yeah, really encourage them to win it and cleanly and counter quickly.
So I think that's really important, and there's lots of tweaks like that you can bring in, and you'll see the benefit. And one of the things I ask our sort of twin trackers is when they go and play football, what's it feel like? And most of the time, the stock answer is football seems slower.
Yeah. And
I come back and say, is that because it's slower, or because you're just able to see what's going on and make up your mind and do it?
It's just it's perception. It just feels slower, right? Yeah. It isn't slower, but it just feels slower because
your decision making powers are just better now.
It's been enhanced.
You can sort of see the whole picture and make your decision, and the ball's at you, and you know what you want to do. And is that what it is?
I'm pushing luck with your time, so I'm going to 2 more questions if that's okay, Louis.
Okay.
The first one really is we try and always drag this back into the grassroots space because a lot of listeners work in that environment, and certainly Mark and I do with the players that we've got. And you've given loads already, but is there any kind of tips for grassroots coaches or little nuggets of advice that you would suggest about how we could look at futsal and incorporate futsal in our practices? It may be, look, guys, go and get yourself a court and do it because it's that's really what you should be doing. Or it might be actually if you can't get yourself a futsal court, but you're just doing 3G Astro sessions or grass sessions, think about maybe some of these constraints.
Yeah, I think with my FA hat on here, the surface needs to be flat and hard if you're going to get a true return from futsal. So let's talk about surfaces. If you've got access to a Muga, a netball court outside, that's fine. It's flat. And you've got the goals, you've got the lines there, then do it on that. You can do it on that. There's no slide tackling allowed in futsal for under 16s and below, so that shouldn't be an issue. And kids play in the playground all the time, so
they're used to that.
Yeah, so they're used to that, and you'll get your returns.
So it doesn't have to be indoors necessarily.
No, the climate. It's great in Spain in the south because they've got open air courts and they only have maybe 10 days of rain a year. We don't have that, but this time of year from now until Christmas, I think we're pretty lucky whether you can get out on a Muga. I've done futsal on a Muga, and it works. Ideally, you'd want an indoor court, and if you can get that, I think you just got to be a little bit persistent with schools and knocking on doors to open up. The facilities are there.
True.
We've definitely got enough facilities in this country. It's just getting access to them, getting schools to open up. Yep. And I think sometimes you just got to go in there and be a bit of a nuisance and knock on the door and not take no for an answer and get them to open up. So I think that would be a tip: is just be persistent. If you don't do that, I think there's a fight for Astro space as well. Everyone wants the Thursday 7 to 8:30.
It's the timings, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, but you can't get that. There's plenty of clubs training at 9 o'clock on a Friday night on an Astro because that's all they can get.
Yeah.
So I think in terms of that, I think it's just really having a go at it as well. You can, the 4-second restarts, the goalkeeping rules. You can bring in futsal elements into your coaching, and I think, and even just sometimes using a futsal ball in the session as well. That because the ball will behave differently. Yep. If you're doing a session on passing, for example, the ball's going to be on the ground a lot more, and you're forcing them and pace of pass because you've got to hit the ball harder as well.
Yeah.
So I think there's lots of opportunities there to use some of the sort of futsal laws to enhance your session. So I think it's have a look at it and what you're trying to get out your session, what can I use to tweak, you know?
I think that's exactly it. I think if you can understand what the futsal game's about and the advantages that it brings, it's then a case of saying, well, if I can't go wholehearted into it and find a midweek session, do training, what can I take out of the futsal game that can work in whatever I'm working on, maybe this particular week or month with the players that we've got. And there's so much stuff in futsal that you can carry over that just enhances our sessions. And we bring a lot of the stuff into our sessions at the weekend, but almost without noticing sometimes, you know.
I would say if you do, you know, if you're in a hall and you've got the goals and you've got everything else, then do futsal, because by doing futsal for futsal, you'll get returns from football. You know, it will happen.
100%.
You know, and if people say, "Well, prove it," well, I'll put Lionel Messi on the table.
Yeah.
And players like that.
Yeah.
You know, that you see plenty of their futsal returns in a football game.
Yeah. Look, we've done it with, I think, our older age groups for a few years and it's worked, and our young ones have started off, and you know, even some of the other teams that in our age group are doing it, and unequivocally everyone said the same thing. Wow, it's really impressive. It doesn't take long, literally 4 or 5 weeks, and you see the players getting into it. They love it because they just love something that's a bit different to their normal regular football diet, but they just love the game and they get into it and they like the speed and intensity, and then you do see them, suddenly you see the things on the Sunday games and you think, well, that's come from there. You can see the transference. My final question, I'm sure there'll be people that are keen to learn more or maybe have questions around futsal or want to know more about the game. Anything you can recommend suggestions wise, books, courses, websites, anything at all that you think would be a good learning resource to tap into for coaches?
Well, there's a couple of books that I'd recommend, especially if you're looking for practices and stuff like that. There's Peter Sturgess brought out a book. I think it's you can get it on Kindle as well, or an iPad, you know, so you can actually have those sessions with you. It's called Futsal Training Technique and Tactics. That's a great book, and there's a lot of explanations about what you're trying to get out of the session. And then quite sort of interestingly, Mike Scubala, who's the England head coach, he brought out a book as well, and it's actually called Developing the Modern Footballer Through Futsal.
All right, okay.
So there's a lot of that linking between, well, in futsal you'll probably see the return here in football. So I know that's on a decent offer on Kindle at the moment for under a $5. So you could sort of download that onto your iPad, and there's, you know, you've literally got session plans there.
Sitting there right in front of you, yeah.
But also there's the rationale for why, you know, how it's linking into football and what return that will give you. So there's probably what I'll do, Scott, is I'll send some stuff through and you can link it into the sort of podcast information that you put out.
That'd be great on the session notes. Yeah, that'd be.
I mean, not that I'm trying to promote my own Twitter, but I tend to put links out there for games and stuff like that people can watch.
Big on. What is your Twitter handle so people know?
It's at Luis Melville, and also I tweet a lot of other people, retweet a lot of other people's stuff. There's loads of great accounts out there. What I'll do is I'll do a little list for you. You can put it up, and
well, if it's okay, when this goes live, we'll link you in through Twitter as well, so people can see your Twitter handle, and we'll try and tag in the books and stuff you've recommended too. Sure.
And I mean, there is lots of stuff out there, and you can really throw yourself at it. I would say, like for me, I'm open house, so I've got no secrets. I've been really lucky with the coaches that there's the Brazilian head coach called Marquinhos Xavier. He's come over here twice. Literally opens the doors, come and have a look. This is what we're doing. Ask me a million questions. And his attitude was, well, when I was growing up, no one did that for me.
Yeah.
You know, and that's how I want to be, and I think that's how the futsal community generally is that if we want to be bigger, then we've got to be open. And so if I'm happy to share, I'm happy for people to challenge. So if they come and say, well, why are you doing that? Challenge me, because if you don't understand why we're doing it, then of course you're not going to buy into it. So, and you know what? You might have a better idea than me.
Yeah, we might learn something.
And I might nick that as well. So, I'm not proud to do that. So, I'm more than happy to, and also to link up people with other people in other areas, because part of my role as a mentor. So, I've got quite a good overview of what's going on nationally. So, there might be people around the country listening to this who may want to link in. Your county FAs are a good port of call in terms of what they're having to do, because now with the FA strategy that I've mentioned, they've got KPIs that they're going to have to hit. So, you know, don't be afraid to hit up your county FA and really sort of say, well, you know, what you're doing.
Yep.
And just, you know, make yourself a pleasant nuisance. But, you know that you're not going to go away, because they've got to deliver on futsal.
Louis, thank you so much. I've learnt loads out of this. I'm already an advocate of the game. I know that our listeners will get loads out of it too. It feels like futsal is a real community and a bit of a family, and it's so nice having people like you that are willing to share experience, share ideas, and be open to people approaching you around this stuff. And it will be probably the best way in which we can grow the game in this country and further afield. It'd be great to have you back on maybe in 6 months or a year's time to see how things are going and do a catch up if that's okay with you.
Yeah, I'd love to. It's like I said, I'm still learning. There is so much for us to learn in this country because where we want to get to. So I'm open minded. I go and watch loads of coaches, different coaches, other sports. I'm going to go and watch a handball coach very soon and a basketball coach because there's a lot of transference from their sports into futsal that I want to learn. So I'm no different to any other coach. I want to be better because I'm a firm believer that better coaches make better players.
100%.
So it's, you know,
the game's always changing, right? Yep. It's always changing. All the sports are always changing. So we'll be hassling you again to get back on and have a chat about how that's gone and how you've done it yourself and stuff. Brilliant, Louis. Thank you so much. Okay, so that was Louis. I hope everyone found that interesting. It was, well, first thing, let's just say, if it got better about 3/4 of the way through, that's because Mark left.
Usual.
No, you're not usually there.
Yeah, that's a fair point, yeah. Fair point.
Do you know what? I think it's you don't like sharing the microphones. Is that what it is? You're not good at sharing?
I don't like spending too much time with you, to be honest with you.
Well, that
I
can't
like
be
to cap
true.
it.
And Mark did have to go about 3/4 of the way through, so I wasn't just hogging the questions and taking over, I promise. We sneaked him out.
I should have said goodbye, really, shouldn't I, on the way out? I just should have...
We just waved in and said, see you later.
Yeah.
But a good interview, I think, and some good stuff from Louis.
Yeah, definitely. Look, I think we always we've been lucky. Every guest we've had on have been excellent, right? And I just hope that we are able to do them justice in terms of the questions that we ask and the kind of information that we try and get out of them. But I would say Louis is second to none in terms of anyone we've had on. I thought he was excellent. I thought his background, it's just fascinating to hear about his background, how he almost fell into futsal, and then how that's taken him on this kind of career path now where he's so kind of involved in different parts of futsal, it be with the FA or with this kind of go for goal academy or approach, and at St Mary's as well. I think it's just fascinating how these little things, right? They can
change your life.
Just change your life as well, exactly. So,
well, what's funny with Louis, I thought, because he's very cool, calm, and collected, isn't he?
Very,
very. And that's some some good characteristics there. But you can still feel the passion, and I think I'm sure on the audio, but certainly when you're sitting with him, he doesn't speak 100 miles an hour like I do, but he's in control, but you can just feel his love for the game.
Yes. And
it comes from a place of really wanting to develop footballers, doesn't it?
It does, definitely. That's basically it. And I think, we've said it with other guests as well, just the level of expertise, the things that you can pick up as you go through, the notes that I've made here, that I kind of look back now and some things that I can take forward. I thought it was fascinating. We went through the rules of the game, which was really interesting, right? I think we've kind of done a fair amount of research on that as well, but it was good to hear it from an expert. I still can't quite get my head around the whole fly keeper piece yet. We don't really use that properly in how we do futsal with our teams, but it was really interesting, and it just made me want to go down to watch one of his sessions, which he's very kindly offered to do. And also I think it would be great actually to go and watch a futsal game. I've watched a little bit of some of the games over the last couple of weeks, and I watched some England game. I think there's an England-Germany game maybe this weekend. I may be getting that wrong, but I think there's an England-Germany game coming up. So, but I'd like to go and watch a live game because it's
amazing live, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely, yeah. But I think the interesting thing with futsal, and I think it's something that we could probably debate for a little bit, is actually how we use the rules, how we've used the rules, and how we have played the game with either the under 11s or under 10s, under 11s, and then the under 7s, under 8s, because we probably haven't played it from a purist point of view exactly like futsal should be. But I think a lot of the rules we take on board, and then we try to kind of, patch in where we think it's the real, or try and home in on the benefits that it's going to help the boys in football as well.
Yeah, I agree. And if I'm being perfectly honest, I'm still not convinced that's the wrong thing to do, if that makes sense. Yeah. I get the whole goalkeeper thing, and I get why actually if you don't use the keeper, it encourages the players to stay on the ball. And we've seen it from what we spoke about in the last episode, I think, about that. And I get the benefits, and I think that's right. But I also think it works adapting the rules slightly and using the goalkeepers and, playing more of the five-a-side rules, but
Yeah.
with some of the futsal conditions in it. So it's almost like you can't really go wrong.
Yeah.
It's just another way of playing the game.
Yeah.
And what we did initially then was we took the futsal game, if you like, into indoor football, and we just kept the stuff that we thought would work with the age groups that we had. So the 4-second rule to play, so you're getting the game going quickly. You can dribble a pass on, so we weren't doing throw-ins and corners. We did encourage the older players to try and use some of their foot, although that was a bit hit and miss. But we did encourage some of that.
Yes.
And some of the technical stuff we were doing with regards to the warm-ups and things was more futsal kind of base.
Yep.
But it was essentially it was indoor football with a futsal ball and futsal goals and a couple of the rules, wasn't it?
Yes.
And it worked.
Yeah, really well. And we used a smaller pitch as well,
Smaller
right?
pitch,
I think it was more 3v3 or 4v4.
Yeah, because the numbers that we had.
Yeah. So we didn't use the full pitch.
But what most importantly, I think, and I say this with confidence, the players loved it and love it, don't they? That's the biggest thing. They work so hard on the futsal sessions, just because they love it. They don't stop running around, and you can just see just the physical demands that they put on themselves, the enjoyment, the fun, the non-stop kind of style of the game, which you can imagine scaling it up into a proper futsal match with older players. You can see why it's such a popular game when people get into it and how it becomes quite addictive to play, I imagine.
Yeah, definitely. And I you can just see like in the evening that you kind of run the sessions, you can see how much they enjoy it. And I know my son, that's his favourite session of the week. It's not the kind of matches on the Sunday, which I was surprised about. It's futsal. He just loves futsal. Yeah, I think the interesting thing about the whole rules, staying on the ball, not passing back to the goalkeeper, because we've done I guess a variant of that. We allowed passing back because we wanted the keeper to be involved and be an outfield player. But then we've put the boys into a futsal league, right? And that was proper futsal size pitch, proper rules where you couldn't pass back to the goalkeeper. And I think I remember talking to you the kind of days before leading up to it, and we were like, I wonder how the boys are going to adapt to not being able to pass back, when actually that's something we encourage them still on a Sunday, because you want the goalkeeper to get the ball and play football like I guess Edison does for Man City and things like that. But also in the futsal sessions we do, they can pass back. So I was almost shocked and amazed at how quickly they got it right. And I think we're lucky, or probably you're lucky, that you got very technically able players, and that's not through your good coaching.
Definitely my coaching. So the unopposed stuff I do.
Yeah, exactly. But it was just, they just picked it up so quickly, and they were able to keep the ball, and they were able to move the ball when they had to move it. I was just really impressed.
So on that, we put the under-8s in a league we'd done with the older boys the season before, and it's actually an under-9s league we were playing in. So we've kind of almost put them in it as a bit of a test of their resilience to go and play, and expect to kind of get pretty much battered against probably slightly older boys, obviously, but teams that are probably more experienced playing the futsal way. And although the boys I thought they played really well, to be fair to them. It was that I was most impressed with, the way they adapted to the rules completely. They didn't make any mistakes. Yeah. They didn't. Once or twice you see the keeper go to pick it up and realize they couldn't, or they go to play it back to the keeper and they realize they couldn't do that. But I honestly think that's because we've created, or we've cultivated, or we're trying to cultivate players that are training used to thinking for themselves.
Yeah.
And we do lots of challenges, don't we?
Yep.
And we do lots of game-based stuff where they've got to solve problems.
Yep.
They're not always given the answers.
Yep.
And the expectation's on them to deal with it, not on me to tell them. I do too much telling still, certainly probably on match days, and I like to, but I don't think it's as much as a lot of people do. And I think that's why the players were able to adapt, as well as them being smart young football lads as well. So it's not. I'm not saying it's all me, but I just think that was a good reflection of actually having a coaching environment for the last 18 plus months, where they're used to having to think for themselves, and they did it in the moment under quite a lot of pressure against bigger boys in a completely new environment, and that shows you if they can do that, they've got a good opportunity to be good players, right?
Definitely,
because that's the first thing.
Yeah, and I think as you go through that kind of process, or there are mistakes, right? The boys, the players make mistakes, and I think that's where it's important. And I think what you've done is that it's not a disaster, right? You made a mistake, that's it. We go again, right?
Go again,
and we learn from it. We move on. Yeah. And I think that certainly helps. They're not afraid to make those
pressure, do they?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
No, I was really proud of that, and I do think some of the best moments we've seen from that little young team it's been the character that they've shown in those moments. And I honestly believe that's down to the environment we've created.
Yeah.
Everyone, the parents, I think what we do as coaches, what the boys bring to the equation, so it's not one person can't say, oh, I've created that environment. It's everybody that's, the right message from the mums and dads, the right attitude from the boys, the other coaches across the year group. It's a real team effort to create that. And that's when you have those wow moments.
Yeah.
Individually, the boys can do their stuff, but when you have a team wow moment, I think that it stems from that more than anything else.
Yeah. Certainly the boys were superb on that day. Just the work ethic, the football they played, putting the results to one side, because it doesn't matter. It is a league, but it doesn't matter, right? Under eights. It's just the work ethic, the way they played football, the way they embraced it, the way they weren't afraid of the challenge of playing a year up, the way they took on the new rules. It was just like, it was, as you said, I was still kind of buzzing in the evening. And again, it's nothing to do with the results. It's just like looking at it, and even like you look at your own son, how they played, and just like, wow, I was really impressed. But the interesting thing, actually, on just coming back to futsal, I arrived at the venue a little bit early, and the guy who runs it, he's the referee, and he runs all of the league admin and things like that. And I was talking to him. I said, we've got our under 8s here in the under 9s league. So I said I was going to be a good challenge for them. And he said to me, he goes, as long as they're technically able, technically good players, they do very well. And I said, I guess from our side, the physicality bit we're a bit worried about. He said that probably won't come into play because of the 5 foul rule in each half. That probably won't come into play. And actually, I don't think it did as much in futsal as you would see, like if you're playing a Sunday morning match where the bigger physical players do dominate a little bit. Under 8s.
Totally agree. I wouldn't have agreed with him at all, but I think he was right.
Yeah.
Maybe it's an age thing though, because I think when you see the more grown-up version of football, the futsal, the adult version, they use their bodies very, very well, don't they? And it's a physical game. You don't get fouls, but you use your bodies really well. And I think the younger players aren't really there yet, so it can often be physical is a foul, or not physical is you can't keep going. So maybe maybe they just aren't quite ready to use their bodies in the way that you'd need to if you played futsal at a higher or older level. Yeah. But it's a good point about that, because actually, to be fair, the physical thing wasn't a challenge, and our boys were technically good enough to compete, which did help. Yes. I do think to keep going back to futsal, then benefits and what we've seen out of it, to try and encourage others to give it a go if they can be bothered to try and find a venue and source it. And I get all that's extra work trying to find a place and get the gear and all that kind of thing, but it has got massive benefits. And I think one is it's a different part of the football diet, isn't it?
Yep.
So what the players do on a Wednesday is very different to what they'll do at the weekend, or what they may be doing somewhere else at an academy or a club or something else. So it just is different. It's indoors, so they're warm and they're dry, which is pretty good. We don't coach, do we really? We just put the game on and just kind of manipulate a little bit if we need to, and just keep it going. So for an hour or so, the players just work hard and play and enjoy themselves. And what we've done over the last couple of weeks is actually rather than just start with like a bit of a free play kick around, we brought another sport in. So we did a bit of handball. Yesterday I brought in lots of softballs. We did dodgeball, and the boys liked it. So for 20 minutes, they almost half an hour yesterday doing that. But so you can tie in other sports as well. So not to overcommit, especially all the volunteer coaches out there that have got full-time jobs and already spend all weekend in muddy fields. If you can find somebody, or if you're up for it yourself, to find a venue and source a place and get an indoor space for an hour a week, I can't recommend it highly enough. In what it gives the players, different challenges, different opportunities, a different environment that just complements what they might do at the weekend. Do you think that's fair to say? I'm not overcooking it, am I?
No, definitely not. I think that. I think like with the under 8s, you're starting to see some of the benefits for sure. I think the interesting thing is we've just left the under 11s. They're doing futsal training, and some of those players, and maybe not talking the kind of top end players in the age group, you can just see how they've come on, and I'm pretty certain it's because they've been playing futsal, and it's such a high in intensity game, and the close control and things like that. I think that's really benefited them. So you can see it. I think coming back to the football diet, this is a great one. I know this is something that you have kind of been big on actually, and I've probably taken a little bit of time to get up the curve, but I totally agree with what you say. It just gives something different for them to do and to play. You're not kind of on a Wednesday night on the Astro doing another kind of football session. Is something that is a little bit different. They're still learning a lot. They're still improving in terms of the agility, balance, coordination side of things. They're still playing like a football. The ball's involved, so I think it's excellent. And the other thing is, like, especially with our team, and I call it our team because they're a good team, so that's what I call it our team.
Until we start losing.
Until we lose, yeah. Win at all costs, obviously, right? A lot of them do other things as well. They go to maybe academies or development centres, so they're already playing 3 or 4 times football a week. So doing something different is just great for them.
Yeah. I think you don't want to get bored, you don't want to get burnt out, you don't want to get have injuries when they get a bit older. But also I'm conscious of don't let my voice too much.
Yeah.
So on a Wednesday I'm quite conscious of trying not to say too much. Again, I don't always get it right.
Yeah.
But just let them play, let it feel like it's their space. They're safe indoors. We're here. I'll try and almost just watch and try and give bits of advice where I can, or not even advice, really, just trying to keep the game going and keep them kind of the energy levels there, but you don't have to do too much with these players. But I just can't recommend it enough. And whether you choose to follow proper, when we keep calling it futsal, but we're trying to be honest here and say we haven't embraced futsal 100% as in hook, line, and sinker, all the rules and everything. We've embraced the concept of it, and we've adapted it to make it work for the age group that we've got. But certainly finding an indoor space and playing some indoor football, get a futsal ball and get a couple of futsal goals, pop-up ones, you're away. And I think your players would really enjoy it. And like you say, just back to your point about the under-11s, I haven't seen some of those boys play for probably a year or two. Yeah. And for 10 minutes watching now, I couldn't believe some of the footwork on some of the boys that weren't the top end before. But I wouldn't have thought they could have been doing the things I've just seen in the last 10 minutes, to be honest with you. And I know it's not saying it's exclusively down to the futsal, but I'm sure that's had a big contribution to that.
Yeah, definitely.
And I'm not coached that team for a couple of years, so it's nothing to do with me. That's just the work you put into them, and again, just give them the opportunity to get into space and practice.
Yeah, totally agree. Yeah, and I think you can, if you can find a venue, and actually the venue that we use with the under-8s is just a small gym. It's not a proper, as we said, it's not a proper futsal venue, but you can get some of the pop-up goals which are relatively cheap. Yeah. The futsal balls are relatively cheap. You can get some good deals on it. You don't need to get a ball for all the players.
Yeah. Or find a local sponsor. Just get someone and tweet about them.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
exactly.
Because they can take it off their tax usually and stuff. So, for a few $100, you could probably get yourself set up. It wouldn't cost you guys anything, and someone can put their brand name to it a little bit, and you can tweet about thanks to whoever for helping us out, set this up, get some photos of the kids loving what they're doing. It's all good publicity for the business.
Definitely.
It's good.
Totally
for the
agree.
kids.
And I think the other thing is, if you're thinking about it, I strongly urge you to just to do a bit of research. Go on internet. There's so much on there. YouTube. There's so much on futsal on there. You can watch some games, some goals. You can see some of the great players like Ronaldinho and Ronaldo playing futsal. But outside of that, it's well worth reading the Peter Sturgess book. I bought that, and there's a lot about futsal in there. But there's a lot of great stuff around the environment, keeping players on the ball, keeping it fun, all the kind of stuff that we've spoken about over the last kind of 10 months or so. It's definitely worth reading that book, and we'll put a picture of the book we'll put it on the Twitter feed so people can see it.
I think if you're trying to think ahead, then you've got to think actually there's a good chance that futsal could be, it's growing, right? Yeah. And it could be a lot bigger in 5 or 10 years' time. Therefore, I think we have an obligation to. I'm keen to try and help the young players we've got, whether that's over the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years, kind of move on to wherever they go to next, being really competent football players, but also having a really good understanding and competency of futsal as well. I feel like I'm obliged to do that because that's the way the environment is right now. So if they leave under 11s, me and the coaching have given them, they can look back and say, well, at least Scott, he's shown me both his worlds, and I can do both, or actually I'm going to go down the futsal route or just the football one. But I've done my job. I feel like if you don't expose them to the futsal world, I think it's a bit unfair. Maybe they need to see it if you've got the resources and the time to do it.
Yeah, totally agree. And I think futsal's now been accredited, isn't it, in GCSE and A level from 2020 onwards as a sport. So potentially, as
drive
some of the
as well.
boys and girls get to that age, it's going to drive interest. There'll be sports. Obviously, the school have got the facilities.
We've got to think for the next 10 years, not just what's going on now.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, we probably have to wrap up because it's
I think one thing we should say just quickly. I think if there's if there's any kind of like-minded teams out there that would like a game of futsal, we could do something maybe on a Saturday morning or something, or we could set a game up. Right?
Even in the midweek, we've got facilities, and we could get a place on a Wednesday or Thursday potentially. So if you're half local, please shout out to us. Or if you're doing something that's working for you, or you're doing something similar or different, please let us know, because I think it's good to share this stuff. No one told us about this. We kind of stumbled across it looking for an indoor extra midweek training session, more by chance than anything. And we'd like to know, maybe we could do more with the players we've got, or try something different as well. We'll put the links up to the books. Louis suggested one or two I know as well, and we'll get the link there. We'll also put Louis' Twitter handle in the show notes, and we'll tweet his handle when we put it on Twitter, the episode itself. So do follow Louis if you want to, and have a look at what he's doing. He's a great guy, with great enthusiasm for futsal, always sharing resources and ideas and things. And I know that if you dropped him a message through Twitter, he'd reply back with his contact details if you wanted to speak to him about more stuff. He's a reluctant expert. He kept saying how much he's not an expert, but certainly compared to Mark and I, he very much is. And his 15 plus years experience puts him a lot more ahead of the curve than we are. But let us know how it goes on with the futsal thing. Just to wrap up, if that's all right, just a few thank yous. First of all, we had some great feedback from the Paul Barry Arsenal episode, so thanks to Paul again. Thanks to everyone that's contributed and given him some nice feedback. I know he's grateful for that, but he does his bits to reach out, and we're very pleased that he was able to. He kind of came to us to share some of his experiences and what he does, and just some emails. So Alan Morgan sent in some really good stuff they're doing at the club that he's at around their DNA. We mentioned it before. Some really good stuff, actually. I'm really impressed around their DNA for the coaches, their players, parents and the club. Also around their formations, in and out of possession, and their principles of play, which is great. And also Aaron Sayer, who coaches under 12s, spoke about running team events outside of football and things. So we're going to do an episode hopefully in the next couple of weeks with someone around club culture and that kind of stuff. So I think what Alan's come back and what Aaron's come in with would fit in well with that. So we'll pick that up in more detail as part of that. And the final thank you is to Susan Heyman, who coaches high school sports out in the US. She sent a really nice short and sweet email just saying that she coaches, I think, not necessarily soccer, but different sports, but how the podcast has helped her with some ideas for the players that she coaches, but also for her own ideas as well, which has helped her, which is great to hear, because that's the idea of this, is just sharing some thoughts and ideas, and if some of it sticks and helps, then brilliant. And we've had some really good stuff back that certainly helped us out. So sharing is caring, as they say.
Exactly. At the end of the day, we don't want people sitting there listening to us and getting nothing out of it, right?
For an hour and a half. Completely pointless. But if you do enjoy it, please tweet about the episode. Please follow us on Twitter. You can find us at SoccerCoachCast. Please leave a review about the episode, because it helps other people find us. And honestly, we don't care how many stars you put down. It's entirely up to you. Whatever you say, good, better and different, we take the feedback in a way that's going to help us develop the podcast the best we can. We put some time and effort into this. We want to make it worthwhile to everybody, right?
Yeah, definitely.
But we appreciate it. We've got a couple of guests coming up, and Mark and I have got, I think, a nice idea to share some different views about some things just ourselves, maybe in the next episode actually. But we'll see. Sound good?
Brilliant.
All right, thanks Mark.
Cheers,
bye everybody.